I'm Mary Kay from University of Maryland. I am the nutrition and garden educator. Welcome to Cooking Together. What I'm going to do today is cook a sheet pan recipe, summer vegetables and chicken. And why I chose the sheet pan recipe, this is always my favorite because it's so quick to do. So what I'm going to do is read through the sheet pan recipe, and that's very important whenever you start any kind of a meal, is to read through it all the way so that you don't miss any steps. Start with 1.5 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken breasts cut into bite-sized pieces, 2 medium to large zucchinis, and you're going to cut those into half moons or quarters. 1 medium large yellow squash, and you're going to cut that into half moons or quarter. 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil, but I find that 2 tablespoons is sufficient. 1 teaspoon of ground lemon pepper seasoning blend. 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning. You're going to use a little bit of salt, or if you want to omit the salt because a lot of people are salt sensitive, that's fine too. 1/2 teaspoon of freshly ground pepper. A tomato. I use little cherry tomatoes, and you'll see later on, but just a little size. They're very easy to cut and put in. It also calls for grated Parmesan. If you have, that's optional. And the note about dry seasonings, that is, sometimes people find, you might find certain seasonings might cost a little bit more in the beginning to get dry seasonings, but it's cheaper in the long run than fresh. If you can afford to have fresh basil, great, because it's wonderful. But dry seasonings stay with you, stay fresh for about 2 years, as opposed to fresh seasonings, which you've really got to use within a week in the refrigerator. Also, preheat your oven to 400. Start that right away so that's ready once, because this goes pretty quickly in terms of the prep. A baking sheet with aluminum foil. This baking sheet I got at Target, and it's a great sheet, so I think 12 by 17, and it's a thick gauge so it doesn't warp and bend, so it really holds the heat consistently. If you want to line your sheet with aluminum foil, then that'll really cut out the cleanup. I don't mind just putting my chicken and vegetables straight on the sheet. I just put a little bit of oil on there. Basically, you're going to start prepping the ingredients. That's what the recipe tells you to. But I like putting in a bowl where you can really incorporate it much easier. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I've already washed my hands, so that would be the next step. Wash your hands before you begin handling your vegetables and chicken. Start with the zucchini and cut off the ends lengthwise. Since this is a smaller zucchini, some of them can be quite large. You may want to, cut this again and go quarters, but since this is smaller, I'm just going to cut this into half moons. These are approximately 1/4 inch thick. You don't want them too thin because zucchini cooks away. It almost disappears. This into a bowl. This one halfway. Since these are fairly wide pieces, I'm going to do another slice down the center, but it's up to you. These will be quarter pieces. Yellow squash are going to go in here. You want a good sized bowl because you're going to find out that it starts filling up pretty quickly. And then I'm going to get my chicken, which I kept in the refrigerator because you don't want it sitting out at room temperature. So I'm going to put this piece. Normally, if you're going to do 1.5 pounds of chicken, you probably have 2 pieces in here. So I'm going to slice this lengthwise, really using the tip of the blade to get momentum and to cut more precisely. Moving my fingers back every time, make sure I don't cut them, and a claw-like approach. I'm going to switch boards. I don't want to mix my vegetables with chicken. My tomatoes out here. Now, if you don't mind, I put these in the recipe. If you don't mind them being juicy, it's perfectly fine to include them in with the squash and the chicken. You kind of just eyeball how much you want to have in there. I'm going to measure out a teaspoon of the lemon and pepper. I like to pre-measure sometimes just in case. It depends on the seasoning, but I don't get super persnickety about, like in baking, if anybody's a baker, you would take a knife and really level that off, but it's really not necessary. This isn't that strong of a seasoning, so you can be a little bit generous. Who doesn't love Italian seasoning? Just kind of shake it. It's almost level. I'm going to sprinkle the seasonings. Isn't this looking nice? Chicken's buried under all these good veggies. I'm going to put a little bit of salt. And a crack of some pepper. About 2 tablespoons of oil that I already measured out. Now I'm going to toss in this nice big bowl so that it doesn't go all over the counter. I like to take it and flip the spoon. It's called folding. Pour it in the pan and push the veggies around in the chicken, even heating area. When you make this, you'll pretty much fill up the pan. It's necessary that you add lemon to this, but I like to because I love the juiciness of lemon. You might still, depending on the lemon, sometimes you get a little bit more pit there and you can just cut that and discard. Slice it thin. My fingers are moving back. At a certain point where that knife just won't go through, I will just let that go instead of chancing it. A sheet pan recipe. And I'm going to set it calls for 25 to 30 minutes. I'll set it for 25 just in case. I like to, be a little cautious. You never, all ovens run, different degrees of hotness. So you want to be able to check it and it not be too late to where it would overbake and something is got little black edges. Now, while this one is baking, which I did set for 25 minutes, I want to talk about the health, nutrition of the benefits of zucchini. Zucchini and yellow squash are in the melons and spaghetti squash family. Spaghetti squash is a fun thing to work with as well. It's a fun vegetable. And it's also related to cucumber. It's very high, both the yellow squash and the zucchini is high in fiber, so it's very good for our digestion. It's good in antioxidants, which they say helps fight, stave off disease, particularly cancer. It's rich in nutrients like vitamin C, magnesium, potassium, and folate, all very important players. And the chicken is very good source of protein as a meat. It's lower in fat than your red meat, so chicken is always a good choice. And also, for a balanced meal, this sheet pan fits my plate. If those of you have seen this before, this it replaces what used to be the food pyramid, the government food pyramid, of making sure that you get in all your vegetables, your grains, dairy, and protein. So the sheet pan recipe fulfills all of this. Now, if you don't want to drink milk with your meals, maybe the kids do, but if you don't want to have, the other thing I meant to tell you is the sheet pan recipe is great to serve over brown rice. So if you want to cook up some rice ahead of time, that is a great way to really round out this meal, and it'll just be very satisfying for everyone. So there you have it. You've got your grains, your protein, your vegetable, and of course, well, it's not fruit, but for dessert, you can have fresh yogurt with blueberries, and then you've completed your full, balanced meal for the day. So every day you want to aim for 3 to 5 servings of fruits and vegetables, and some kind of whole grain, whether it be oatmeal in the morning or the rice with the sheet pan dinner. And for lunch, you can find ways to, a salad is a great way to work in your vegetables. You can put sources of protein on your salad using canned beans, tuna, and other sources. You might have leftover grilled chicken you could use on the salad. And another reason to use zucchini, and it's not just for zucchini bread. You can use it raw in your salads. Maybe you haven't tried that, but it's a very clean, fresh taste. You can also stew it with other veggies to make ratatouille, which is a vegetable stew with eggplant and other vegetables, tomatoes. And you can use it for a stir fry. You can also use zucchini to replace lasagna noodles and make it zucchini lasagna. So that'd be a very healthy lasagna. You're just going to layer your zucchinis instead of the sheet noodles. So I've done that. It's very interesting. So what's in season? Now, this is a time to eat vegetables and fruits that are in season. There's so much to be had at the farm stands along the roads, and also the stores are carrying local vegetables that are in seasons. So I would like to just spotlight some of the things that are in season right now to consider. There's beans and green snap peas are in season, carrots, collard greens, silver queen corn is delicious. It tastes so sweet. Cucumbers, of course, they're coming on. Eggplant, peppers will be coming on. Sweet, green peppers, orange and red peppers. Okra, onions, of course. What else we got? Potatoes, squash. Squash will be coming on like crazy. Zucchini, if the bugs don't get them first. And for fruits, we've just gone out of the strawberry season, in the local gardens, but blueberries are definitely in the stores, and they're fairly cheap right now, as well as cherries. Now, cherries has a smaller window, but now's the time to buy them if you like them. Plums and raspberries. And then another thing about, to eat healthy, it doesn't have to be expensive. And if you can't get fresh, you can always use frozen. Frozen is really second best. Is very, it's just as healthy for you because it's harvested and frozen soon after harvest. And the thing about frozen vegetables and fruit is that there's a no waste component to it. You can use as much as you need, and then seal up the bag and put it back in the freezer, and you've got more to use. Whereas I have found, like, leaving, after a few days, fresh raspberries are turning to mold in the refrigerators. So frozen raspberries taste just as good as the fresh. So it's more accessible sometimes to do it that way, and it's certainly budget friendly. If you buy canned, be sure to rinse your vegetables in cans, and especially the beans, anything that might have salt added. Rinse your canned vegetables and beans before you use them. And in terms of canned fruit, look for fruits, canned fruits that are packed in their own juices or water, not sucrose or added sugar. You'll see that a lot. So here is the baked version, which was, I baked this for 30 minutes, and the zucchini is just shrunken just a little bit, and so is the squash. The aroma fills up the kitchen, and you will love it. So having a healthy meal starts with, incorporating your fruits and vegetables and grains and protein, and, finding low-fat dairy. Like for dessert, you can have low-fat yogurt with blueberries, and then you've topped off a great meal. So enjoy.